Third oral question, Lord Harris of Pentregarth.
I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the UK welcomes the recommendations of the UN Human Rights Committee in response to the second period report of Indonesia under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We regularly raise our concerns on the human rights situation in Papua, both with the Indonesian Embassy in London and directly with the government in Jakarta. The Foreign Secretary raised Papua with then Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi in July 2024.
I thank the Minister for her reply. Since Indonesia invaded and occupied West Papua, there have been the most appalling human rights atrocities. Perhaps as many as 300,000 people have been killed. Particularly worrying at the moment is the way West Papua is being repopulated by people from Indonesia, so that indigenous population are in danger of becoming a minority in their own country. The world doesn't know about this because Indonesia refuses to allow the press in, NGOs in, or human rights commissioners. What further steps could the government take to press the Indonesian government, and what further steps might it take actually with the UN itself, because this situation has gone on far too long?
The Noble Lord raises his concerns consistently on this issue, and we respect him for doing that. But as I say, we will continue to raise concerns both through the Foreign Minister. Minister Dodds visited Indonesia in September, and she also raised concerns about Papua.
My Lords, the government is committed to universal human rights, and the Minister may very well anticipate my question here, as I've mentioned it before in the House. When is the government going to appoint a special envoy for freedom of religion and belief? Because contrary to the promises that have been made, this hasn't happened, and it is a bipartisan issue which we all support.
It's very much a bipartisan issue, and so it should always be. The government will be making announcements about envoys, trade envoys, I hope very soon.
Been briefed of the Human Rights Watch report from September, which recommended that the Indonesian government unconditionally release West Papua and other detainees in exercise of their fundamental political rights. But specifically for the new Indonesian government just formed to permit UN rights monitors to visit West Papua, this would be honouring a commitment that the previous Indonesian government gave in 2018 but have yet to honour. Has His Majesty's government specifically asked for that latter point with the new administration?
We do support the work of the UN Human Rights Commission in this regard, and as he suggests, this was raised in recent dialogue with Indonesian political representatives.
My Lords, does His Majesty's government agree with the Pacific Conference of Churches that the future for West Papua, alongside Mahawin Nui, French Polynesia, and Kanaki, New Caledonia, actually lies in self-determination? So, what conversations has His Majesty's government had with the Indonesian government to put the case that they should give freedom to those territories they have invaded and annexed?
Well, I think the issue is here that we do support self-determination, but we also recognise the territorial integrity of Indonesia, and where there are many cases where there are independence movements, including, it should be noted, here in the UK, and I think it is usually wise for international partners to raise these sorts of issues in a very careful way, and we have raised issues of human rights, but we do respect, as I've said, the integrity of the borders of Indonesia.
My Lords, the abuse that's going on, deliberately so, is really very terrible. If the government is going to be consistent with its policy, should it not be doing something more than just talking to the ambassador for Indonesia? We've seen elsewhere that it's prepared to stop trade. There's £3.5 billion of trade going on with Indonesia each year. Perhaps the government should stop some of it.
Well, we have a range of options, as the Noble Lord indicates, and these judgments can be very finely balanced about how to have influence and how to become an irrelevant voice on the sidelines in this issue. But we do encourage Indonesia to cooperate with the United Nations, and I don't think all we're doing is talking to the Indonesian ambassador, although of course we do that. These issues have been raised by the Foreign Secretary and by Minister for Development, Minister Dodds, in person in Indonesia at ministerial level.
Lord, the Minister is right to be realistic. Is there any evidence whatsoever that taking actions against one country on trade would make any difference? And quite frankly, if we are going to go down that road, there's hardly any nations that we could trade with.
Well, I think every circumstance is different. That all of these situations where we have concerns are unique. Sometimes it is not possible to raise concerns through dialogue. Sometimes the nature of the relationship is such that that is completely unproductive, and we can all think of examples where that is the case. But in the case of Indonesia, we have a good relationship with the government there, and we seek to use that relationship to raise these concerns, and I think that is the right approach.
My Lords, I'm sure the Noble Lady the Minister is aware that the alien and invasive crop of palm oil that was imposed on the people of West Papua little more than a decade ago has caused enormous destruction, is very much associated with the human rights abuses that Noble Lord Lotta Harries raised in his initial question. I don't know if the Noble Lady is aware of an excellent anthropological study of this in The Shadow of the Palms, More Than Human Becomings in West Papua, which really describes how for the indigenous people of West Papua, palm oil is something like a sessile triffid that's come in and destroyed their environment and destroyed their communities. Can the Noble Lady the Minister assure me that there is no palm oil from West Papua coming into the UK?
We've worked with the Indonesian government on sustainable palm oil. I haven't read the anthropological study that she refers to, but if she wants to send it to me, I'd be very happy to look at that. We support very much the role of indigenous communities, particularly in promoting biodiversity and preventing deforestation. I think they are a vital partner, and actually we will achieve very little unless we work closely with indigenous communities.
About the Indonesian colonisation of West Papua, which, as the Noble and Right Reverend Lord said, have led to the deaths of tens of thousands amongst the indigenous population. Will the government do all it can to stir the international community into action on this matter?
I think the international community is aware of the situation in Papua, hence the interest from the United Nations, and will continue to work through that method and bilaterally as well to continue to raise the issues that we're also concerned about.
My Lord, I'd like to congratulate the Honourable Lady and the Minister for the very measured approach that she's taking here, but could also, within those, can she reassure us that the Foreign Office also recognised the crucial importance of Indonesia, the fourth most populous nation in the world, the most populous Muslim nation, and also a crucial part of the economic and security infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific. While we're making those representations, can we also be advancing our relationship as well?
Well, I do think that whenever possible, influence should be gained through a good relationship, and one of being perhaps sometimes a critical friend. And I think that the points that he makes about the wider Indo-Pacific and the security situation are also things that a responsible government here in the UK really does need to take into account.
Very grateful to the Noble Lady the Minister for her answers to Lord Speller and Lord Watts. Will she take this opportunity to congratulate Indonesia for having last month deposited its formal application to join the CPTPP? Will she congratulate them on, like us, having had a recent democratic and peaceful transition of power where the new government keeps the same trade policy towards the Pacific bloc as the previous one?
And will she take this opportunity to confirm that we will not engage in the kind of protectionism disguised as environmentalism that has led the rapeseed oil industry in Europe to come up with effectively a sabotage of any trade deal, thereby opening the door towards the UK being Indonesia's chief trading partner in this part of the world?
We do note the approach to CPTPP by Indonesia, and we believe that we believe in free trade, and we want to strengthen our trading relationship with partners through CPTPP, as the Noble Lord would expect.